the meeting as normal. A lot of people couldn't make it tonight that are interested to hear what obviously TSSA and what Michael and Phil have to say. Unfortunately, a lot of people couldn't be here tonight. I know it's tricky to get people out. And then we will do a temporary foreign workers update following our guest tonight. I didn't really slate in who's going to go first or second. So you want to go first, Michael or Sonny?
I assume TSSA was going to go first,
Sure.
but
Yep, that's fine. I'm okay with that.
I'm
We'll let the official go. So this is for those who don't know, Sonny Silva from TSSA, Ontario's ride regulator. If you don't know who that is, Tara from West Coast Amusements. I don't know if you do or don't. So take it away, Sonny. Do you need slide sharing or anything like that, Sonny?
I wouldn't mind, yeah, because it'll help, right?
Okay, let me just make sure it's on here for everybody.
And
Yeah.
then while you're doing that, Joelle Javier is on the call as well, and for you, everyone that doesn't know, Joelle is our new engineering manager for TSSA. So she has obviously been with the amusement ride industry for quite some time with me, my partner in crime, like she said, and but also has a bigger responsibility with the elevators and so forth, right? So Joelle's here with us as well.
Congratulations, Joelle.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Congrats.
So I reached out to Chris. I know there was an ask for us to attend as well, and we've done in the past, but I'd like to make it a little bit more common for us to attend the meeting. So thank you for the time. I really wanted to. I have a couple of things that I want to talk to you about, but really and truly, I really wanted to reach out with to ask the group if there's any burning issues or questions that you want from us, and that we would take that away and come back and obviously do our best to answer that if we can't answer it right now. So that's kind of keep that in the back of your heads when I'm going through a couple of just little reminders. If there is some stuff that you want to ask or feel that maybe we can be doing things a little differently or anything like that, just jot it down and definitely let Joelle and I know, so then that way we can take that back and hopefully answer it somewhat now, but definitely come back with a better answer or a final decision on if there's something to be made. So thank you for that. So as we're wrapping up the season, we are gearing up the season for renewals for next year. So tomorrow is officially the date that we schedule our renewal packages to go out, October 31st, November 1st. So we are right on time with this year. I know some years in the past we've been a little delayed with some changes. So let me share the screen here for a second, if I know how to do that. Share screen. Screen number 1. So either tomorrow or May 1st, as I noted, you will get the renewal package via email. Everybody see the screen? I am trying to organize myself here. Everyone sees the PDF document?
yeah.
Yep.
So not much has changed from last year. The only thing is everyone's probably received a letter or some correspondence from TSSA regarding late fees. And those late fees in the AD industry only apply to mechanics licenses and your ADL license, right? So as you know, for the last couple of years, all the licenses expire on December 31st, including your ADL license. So the most important thing I want to mention to you today was if you plan to operate next year, which most of you do, then renew your ADL license before December 31st. You'll get this package. That doesn't mean you have to renew all your devices. and all your devices are done through the portal now, right? But your ADL license, you'll get the invoice in the mail, you'll get the renewal package. You go onto our portal and you pay your fees and submit your application, which includes like certificate of insurance. Here I'll scroll down to that section. Sorry if I'm going fast, right? Like, so we've all seen this, right? So your renewal application, your mechanics information, your operating schedule. Now, please fill this out as best as you can. I know there's a lot of stuff that's probably still up in the air, but whatever you have booked in for next year already that you know of, fill that out, right? And this link takes you to the form. This is in my way here. Can I move this? Yeah, I can move this. This takes you to the blank form, right? It's an Excel. Fill it out for mobile devices, right? There's 2 tabs: mobile devices, arriving date, so forth, and what you have on schedule, right? So we set up a little kind of reminder on the steps, and I'm going to go up to it here as well. So here's your steps, right? Your renewal checklist. So complete the application form with all the sections, your valid insurance, the payment, and then the operating schedule as best as you can. That will get you the ADL license, and that license will be good till December of 2025, right? So we're not asking everybody to do their devices. If you want to do your devices in the next month or so, that's fine too. But you can wait till the spring to do your devices. So I don't want anybody to incur this late fee. It's $75, right, for an ADL. I don't want anybody to incur that. We don't need to charge that. That gets everybody renewed on time before December 31st, and we're off to the races for next year. So, any questions regarding that? Pretty straightforward. Is everyone now should have set up their portal account in order to renew their devices? So this kind of came in live April, May of last year, or sorry, of this year. So some people might have had all their devices renewed before that. So if you haven't set up your account on the portal in order to renew this year is all done through the portal. And if you remember, the portal is pretty responsive in terms of like picking out the devices. It'll have all your devices listed. You select the ones that you want to renew. Obviously, it spits out a number. That's your payment. And then you set up your inspection once you get that completed. If there's any inflatable operators in the room and or mobile operators that want to take part in the inflatable attestation, that's still happening this year and moving forward. So this is the page that you need to look at on your renewal. Everybody will get it, even if you have an inflatable or not. You will have to download that app. The links are on once you get this electronically, you'll be able to download the app and utilize the attestation for the inflatables. Did a lot better this year in terms of sending out permits at a timely fashion. We were for all the pronto forms or forms attestations that were sent in, we were tracking 1 week, right? So once it was sent in that week, you would get it by the following week, right? So
question from Danny Campbell.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I don't have a question right now. I'm just letting letting Sonny speak there.
Okay.
I'll chime
You're
in.
just clapping. I think it was just.
I'll chime in a minute.
Okay. So that's.
Sorry, Bennett has a question. Sorry, Sonny.
Yeah, go ahead.
So my insurance policy usually runs till December and we renew in December. Can I submit my ADL renewal with my insurance expiring December 20th, 2024? or do I
You
need to
can,
wait till I get a new insurance policy?
yeah, no, don't wait. You can submit with that insurance. You'll Nikita in our office, many of you have probably dealt with. She's pretty good at keeping track of that. She'll send you a reminder to send an updated insurance come December. Right?
Okay, thank you.
Good question. And yeah, so again, then moving on to the form, this is again, just trying to spell it out to everyone. This is the email that you send it to, the steps that you have to take, and then once your ADL is issued, once steps 1 and 2 are done, then you can go into the client portal and two things you can do there. You can update your operating schedule, and then you can also renew your devices. But that doesn't have to get done until the spring. You can do it before. It's not a problem, but those are not subject to late fees. So I got a bunch of questions when those letters went out and notices went out for the late fees, because all your devices also expire December 31st, and that doesn't apply to amusement permits per device, right? Okay.
I'd like to put a disclaimer on that because this is the first time that they're issuing these late fees, it is possible that the invoices might reflect some fees for those devices. So make sure to check your invoices later on that there's no errors.
Yeah. And for sure, I mean, we know our invoices are not the most straightforward looking pieces of paper. So just make sure that that's correct, right? Um, and the good thing about the permits for the devices is it's a prepayment, so you shouldn't get any invoices after the season starts, right? Or after you do that.
But Sonny, you guys want to inspect the device until we've paid for the fee on that device, right?
Correct. Correct. Yeah. So if you're getting your stuff done early, obviously the renewal stuff has to be completed before the inspection.
Right. So there never would be a late fee because you won't inspect it unless we paid it.
No. So if you renew your ADL,
No, but
I
the
know you do a lot of
ADL you have to pay in advance, but the other ones you have to pay before we even get them inspected, right?
correct. But a lot of people were thinking that because the expiry on that device is December 31st, if you didn't renew that device December 31st, before December 31st, that you would get hit with a late fee, and that's not the case, right?
Yeah. So it's just you pay as you're ready to do the inspection.
Correct. So that's about it for renewals. Does anybody have any questions with renewals? And the other thing I wanted to reach out is, now Joel, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if this is out on our website yet for consultation regarding the incidents, or will it be out at the end of the beginning of this month?
The incident advisory?
Yeah.
I don't believe it's out yet.
Okay. I want everybody to keep a look at an advisory that's going out regarding incidents.
I believe we're allowed to share it because they wanted feedback from the industry.
Okay. So there's something, Chris, maybe I'll share with you, and then you can, this is our draft format right now, right? So, but I want everybody, and this is going to be also probably talked about at council in the next meeting. They're changing some requirements. They're not changing their requirements. They're removing some advisories that we currently have out right now for reporting incidents. And in the AD sector, it really affects the returning the device to service. If everyone knows or familiar with it, we have an attestation in the back where a mechanic signs off saying that the injury was not a cause of the device, that it was, maybe a human error, trip and fall, whatnot, and the mechanic can then sign it in order to return the device to service if the injury was pertaining to a medical practitioner, like this person got taken away in an ambulance or whatnot. So they're removing that advisory, which means it then changes a little bit of the rules on returning the device to service and when you can, actually inspect the device without the inspector being on site. So I just want everyone to be very vocal on that in terms of it does change stuff for the AD industry. And the reason that advisory was there was obviously to help the industry. It was in conjunction with the industry in order to have a timely, reinstatement of the device after an injury, especially if obviously it's not a mechanical failure or, a failure of the device. So for those of you that are on council, hopefully you will get to talk about it in the next meeting. Cindy was made aware of it as well, and it's out for consultation and review. So once it's out, I will send that link also to Chris, if you can share that to the group, Chris, and please, provide feedback accordingly, right? So it is a change that will affect AD industry, right?
So will they
And
be
other
talking about
industries.
this at the next ADAC, which is coming up, I think, in just a week or so, 2 weeks?
So Chris, it's not on the agenda right now, but it was mentioned in the planetary meeting. I can't say that word properly. It's probably not planetary. It's the joint meeting with all of their
plenary.
plenary meeting with all the councils. It was touched on then, but I don't think it was explained properly, to be honest, right? So I know we're being recorded right now, and I probably shouldn't say that, but you need to read it, right? And you need to look through it because I was unaware of the changes as well. So
Bennett has a question for you.
yeah, go ahead.
Are you hinting at that you're getting rid of the voluntary attestation to return a device to service?
Yes, this new advisory gets rid of all the existing advisories, and that
So
existing
the
advisory is there.
TSSA will be required to come back out and inspect and charge us to return a device to service after an incident?
There's no charge for enforcement actions, right? But we will be required to either give permission over the phone for your mechanic to do that inspection, and or most likely send an inspector out, which means that ride can't go back into service until that inspector goes out. And as we all know, there could be delays there, right? So the inspector is not available that day, the inspector is not available the next day, whatever the case, right? So
Sonny,
yeah.
quick question. Okay, now what happens if this falls? You can't get an inspector out. Say this happens on a Saturday and you can't get an inspector out. Are we allowed to tear down on a Sunday, tear the ride down and move it?
Nope.
Okay. All right.
Unless we give permission, Danny, right? So unless like if one of the whoever's on call, myself or any of the other supervisors, gives permission for you to touch the ride, investigate, obviously tear it down or whatever the case may be, then yes. But if whoever's on call feels that it needs to be investigated by TSSA, then there is no attestation, right? And we used to use that attestation for that kind of liability thing, right? So a mechanic's looking at it, you're signing it, you're saying that there's nothing wrong, and then you send it back into us, right? Unless the on-call supervisor can do that over the phone, we will have to send somebody out.
So this is going to be a case by case situation.
100%.
Right.
100%. Yeah.
So and it
doesn't happen often, don't get me wrong, but I want to make it aware because it is a change and it was mentioned in the advisory joint meeting, but I don't think it was explained right. And sometimes because those are joint meetings too, like things get talked about very fast. And like I said, it might have been missed, right?
So you're saying a supervisor will pick up the call. So kind of what like you're saying like a dean was doing before, more or less. It's not the inspector that's going to make the call to put it back in service. A supervisor will say if it's good or not.
Yeah. So when you call the spills action line with the 24-hour line, it goes to our um, call center, and then our call center will always redirect the call to whoever's on call. Could be myself, could be Dean, could be Craig, any of the supervisors that are on call, right? And then at that point, because now we won't have the attestation, there will be more likely cases where we would have to send an inspector out, right?
Any other questions on that? Anybody? Okay.
Okay, so there's a couple takeaways from me, Chris. I'm going to send you, once this gets out, I will send you that link, right? And there was one more other thing. See, I didn't write it down, so I'm going to forget. Anybody? Joel, can you keep me honest here? What was that?
I don't remember.
Link to the advisory. It'll come to me, and then I'll write it down.
Oh,
Just
the seminar date?
Oh, yeah. So that was on my closing. I was going to mention the seminar date. Yeah.
Oh yes. Do you want to see something, Danny?
yeah, just circling back to this this new adaptation here. For instance, I mean, okay, so you said it's not on the agenda at the ADAC meeting coming up?
It currently is not. We were
Okay, so then
Cindy was made aware of it today.
yeah.
Cindy's our chair, so please reach out to Cindy if we want to try to.
Well, I'm just so how many more meetings would you have this winter?
One.
Okay. Will
It's
it,
coming up in 2 weeks.
Yep.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's why it needs to be talked about in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Enough said.
Yeah.
So, TSSA's amusement ride training is going to be this year in March, the last week of March, on the 26th and 27th. ESA is having a carnival meeting like they've done in the past on March 25th. It's going to be not set in stone, but we're aiming for Vaughan, Ontario, and we're also aiming for the same venue. So for the Tuesday, March 25th, ESA will have that carnival meeting that they've had in the past. I don't think they've had one for a few years now, right? So they're going to have that on the Tuesday, and then following that will be our TSSA training on the 26th and 27th.
That's
It's not.
Great
It's
news.
not. Sorry, it's not. The location's not set in stone, and we hope to have it all together. No matter what, ESA's is set on the 25th, and we're really trying hard to be at the same hotel, be at the same venue on the 26th and 27th. We have to go through some procurement stuff, obviously, to secure that, but we're working on that, and hopefully we can make that happen. Which it's a little bit better for everyone. So
I have been advocating for that for years to do that.
I know.
The ESA with the TSSA all the way back.
Yes,
That's great news for everybody because doing it in different places at different times of year, it's hard to get everybody together all at once. So
Yep. No, I agree. I agree.
And you're moving to Vaughan is a new location, so obviously we're not going back to Oshawa.
Unless we can't secure Vaughan, then we might be going back to Oshawa. But if we can secure Vaughan, we will definitely do that. And like you said, Chris, having them at the same location. I mean, Vaughan to Oshawa is not very far, but still, it just makes sense, right?
Yeah, because I'm assuming we'll be flying out of Miami. Big smiley face.
Hey, Sonny.
Yeah, go ahead, Patrick.
We had talked about this when we met in Uxbridge, so about maybe doing a little bit of a meeting with all of the operators in Ontario in maybe December, just so we had no surprises come in March when we're about to go on the road. Is that still a possibility?
A virtual one for sure.
Yeah,
And
even if it's through this or what. But
yeah, absolutely. And we can set it up through this, kind of platform and have everything. I don't see anything down the pipe coming down except to this advisory that I just told you about. That is going to change, or so no surprises come March. But yeah, I think we can definitely do that, or TSA can host it under a different platform and send out an invite to everyone. That's fine too. All right. So
okay, that'd be good.
the other thing is, if anyone is going down to IAPA, we will be there as well. So if there's anything that you want to discuss when you're down there, please reach out to myself or Joelle, and we'll be happy to do the best we can to answer some questions. I know that's always a hot topic when you're looking at new devices, or looking to purchase new things. I mean, obviously we can't 100% give you the blessing on certain things, but at the same time, we can try to help on questions to ask manufacturers, right?
Good points. And you'll have your TSSA hospitality suite open for all of us, I'm assuming?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We take donations on Monday to Wednesday. Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Any more questions for Sonny or Joelle? I know at the plenary sessions they were talking about the speed of service in engineering. I know that was a big topic they were talking about there, is getting the backlog out of the way and all that kind of stuff. So I know that anybody who knows about the backlog or the waiting period for your engineering can be painful. So they are aware of it, and it is on the agenda there. So that is a good thing from the plenary sessions. And obviously,
and we do, sorry to jump in there, Chris. We do, and we always have prioritized amusement rides when it came to engineering review, due to the fact of your season being short and everything else. So we Joelle and team has done a great job on prioritizing that, and maybe putting some elevators down on the back burner. But yeah, when any time you can get it in as early as you can, that makes it better. And maybe that's what Mike's talking about. I'm not sure.
A little bit.
A little bit.
All right.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Sonny, for coming. Joelle, thank you for coming. And you're obviously more than welcome to stick around and hear what Michael has to say, or whatnot. Thank you.
Well, we got to keep him honest, so we'll stay for that. And then
yeah.
Then I'll take off. Yeah.
Now, some of the stuff I'm going to talk about actually involves them. So.
All right. So, Michael, I'll let you take it away from Armis Engineering. Most people are familiar with Michael, and he has brought Phil with him, who I had the pleasure of working with this past CNE on some projects, and brilliant guy. Take it away, Mike.
Okay. So I'm going to run Mike. Do you see the screen? 1 second. And everybody see that?
Looking good.
Okay, good. So I was talking about, I tried to do this last year, but I'm going to extend it to this year because a lot of things have changed, even from last year, a lot of things for the good. So I'm going to talk about specific rides. I'm going to talk about, like I said, what's happened 2023 and 2024. I'm sure that Sonny and Joelle will jump into some of this stuff because some of that involves them, some of the things that they discovered. And then I'm going to kind of a bit more formally introduce Phil, get Phil to comment on some of the things that he saw along with me, and some of the things I'm going to be doing going forward. So anyway, let's go forward. So what happened 2023 and 2024? We had the portal, and there were internal changes at the TSSA. Since I didn't expect Sonny and Joelle to be here, they could maybe comment and they just kind of look at me kind of funny, but still, this is what I saw from my end of things. So I'm going to talk about Danny's Orbiter, what happened with Danny's Orbiter, what happened with Jordy's Himalaya, since Jordy's on the call too, because we had some things that happened with him. And then what happened with names, had bought a few rides from Eastern Europe because I know that people had questions about what happened with them. I'm just going to talk about specifically not the paperwork what happened with them, but what happened with the rides physically, because I know other people had questions on those rides. And then the experience, what I've seen, what people's experiences had with purchasing European rides, since they're trying to make a way into this market. And then it changes what I'm going to be doing going forward, along with basically with Phil. And then I made a quick comment on inflatables, so just one basic fundamental change. And what I saw, oh, extra labels there. Best of 2024, not 20,224. But and this is what I'm going to see, what I saw. So in 2023, the internal challenges was the portal, right? It was like this kind of mysterious thing. So from what I understood, it was initiated by the financial department, not the engineering department. So I know the engineering department was very, they had their own frustrations. So I can maybe say things that, I don't want to get the two of them in trouble here, but no, it was just kind of initiated by the financial department. And then and this, as I found out that engineering was not involved in this thing. So I'm basically asking, just don't, you can lay out all your anger, as I told people, phone and lay in your complaints, but this was not a conspiracy by the engineering department to go after you guys, right? This happened during the March and February. So then, so there wasn't any real, they didn't really, finding out who knew how to do this stuff was very difficult because there really wasn't any formal training from my understanding what was going on there. And Sonny Joel knows that I had lots of anger towards various things, and luckily I was able to give not some of the programmers or some of the people that are involved in this project my opinions on things. So and of course there's no training to submitters such as myself exactly as to what needed to be done. So again, it led to additional frustration. And then I often tell my clients I need the customer number, and a lot of them didn't know what their customer was. It was just a new thing to them. So that was a common thing that I heard was like, what? And then, so and so the other thing that was a little frustrating, which I did let them know, is just that you had to know the form before you actually started. A lot of people didn't know the form. And, a lot of my clients, a lot of yourselves are out there on the field all the time. So you really had to understand how to make the thing work, how to use what form to have before you actually use the thing. So again, a lot of my complaints about the design of the portal was I let them know, and I think it was taken more seriously for the developers of future changes to the portal itself. So I'm a little hopeful for that. It was also difficult doing some of the portal stuff because you didn't know who was or who was responsible for registering any documents, because in the old system, which may have been less efficient, I always knew who to kind of call, but I guess this is part of evolution and things have changed a lot. Uh, so any comments so far from the TSSA side? No? Okay.
We have
The internal
132 hours of video training if you're available. No, I'm just kidding.
So it seemed like, early application went to basically was a black hole. So items were often lost between intake and the queue. So that's only happened to me. I think that might have happened like once this year, but it happened a couple times in 2023. So I think things are mostly sorted out, but that did kind of happen. Some teething pains. And it was really difficult. And then we had to make changes. If I had to make engineering edits, it became more complicated because if I had to make a quick change, which still kind of happens, but it was hard to do that immediately because it used to be able to just pick up a phone and make a call and make a change quickly. So still muddling through that. And the next thing was, yeah, so any quick changes are just nearly impossible to do. It's just have to, I guess, get people in the right mood to get in the right time, but it's not as simple as it was before. Um, so, um, oh yeah, so I found that by the end of May, some March items were not entered, and there's only 250 in the waiting list. I think I'm clear, surely that's sorted by now. This is 2023. So again, improvements since then, but just understanding some of the complications that I saw from my end. And I got interviewed after the portal had opened, right? So it was like, the horses have already run out and the barn doors closed. But again, I had another interview So we had, and I wrote the modifications expected for 2024. Some of those modifications haven't happened yet, but at least I got another call and I had another interview by some people looking for inputs on the portal. So I am pretty, although I'm a lot more used to it, I am still pretty hopeful as to the changes that will be made over time. So I know there were some internal challenges with within the TSSA, such as they had some new staff. At the same time, because I'm following this again, you guys can add to this. You don't have to because it's just since I'm third party, I can just you could say that he said it, but it's just that they had a lot of challenges internally because they were adopting new codes and standards for elevators and rides at the same time. So it's a bit of a task to do all at the same time. You may not have sympathy for them, but I do know what it's like to deal with some of that stuff. So just to let you know that they had a lot on their plate, at least internally, as the engineering did at the same time. And also with a lot of big companies like that, they also have vacations. And either you take your vacation, or you lose it. So you really want to take your vacation, or else you're gone. So I had again sympathy for them at the same time. Dealing with again bigger companies deal with performance assessments, so they're trying to balance that at the same time. And then year-end reports. You put all those three things together, it was just a perfect storm. I'll put all these things, all four things together. It's a perfect storm of what's going on in the background that you may not know or see what happened. So I know that I find that the times that they run the staff, because it's a lot of load for all these people, because I know that at the time, we had, 3 electrical and 5 mechanical, and at times it's basically 2 electrical or so. So let's start with Danny's orbiter. It came in pretty early at first in August 2022, and then it was submitted in January. I suggested we put in at that time, and then we brought it to NARSO for an early inspection. But at the time when I got there, just as you go, we wasn't fully prepared to look at it, but we did look at it. And then we had issues with respect to inadvertent start and trying to manage that. And then we had what happened during testing. We had to test, and we finally opened up in August, and we needed a variance to make that happen. And a lot of that had to do with dealing with the manufacturer and electrical designer in England. So we're going back and forth between with time zones and vacations and everything else. So that was part of the challenge. But we definitely got it sorted out. By this time I was sending things back to the manufacturer to get things sorted out, and I guess there's a lot of things that was missed in conversation, translation or so. And so now by the end of this, Phil came on board, but Phil I don't think you were involved in this project, were you, Phil? No. So this was just before I got Phil on board, because now I've changed an approach to things, because now I got Phil on board right from the very start. I'll tell you about what we're going to do going forward to help save time and money. So that's what happened with the orbiter. I don't know if Danny wants to jump in. He can, if he's there or not. I think he might be gone.
He had to leave.
Okay, so it's just
He's gonna watch this video tomorrow, he said. So.
Okay, sure. So yeah, this was received in 2022, and then submitted in February, and then I flew to Gibsonton for the inspection, and then we had, I think he did have an electrical inspection on site, and then we got approved in June for this thing, and then. So that took a little while, because it was really a hornet's nest of electrical that was in that Himalaya, but we eventually got it all sorted out too. And then we had with the Cyclone, what's it called, the Outlaw, and the Outlaw Coaster, and which was executed in November 2022. I guess the bandits out of this too. And then we had April and May for the others. Now, the others were the European rides that came along, right? And then what I found was that I had communication issues with the manufacturers, in the sense that they weren't responding as quickly as I'd like them to do. And there were some language issues at the same time. This is the time Phil was on board. Phil and I flew to Winnipeg for the inspection. And then again, they're all pressed for time, so the TSSA electrical engineer didn't have time to do the inspection because of just a lot of load, and a lot of stuff was sent in at the year end. And then the other thing we during the process we found that the safety envelope was indirectly set by the manufacturer, but the TSSA wasn't satisfied with it, so we had to do a new envelope analysis require and which resulted in new height limits. And then it was eventually approved at the CNE with variances. And I wanted to stress that, and I guess again, Sonny Joel could add to this, just that variances you aren't skirting the the rules. You're saying that we are dealing with the rules in a different way that still allows us to have the same level of safety. Is that worded right? Okay, sort of. I can't hear you.
So a variance is a deviation to a code compliant requirement, right?
Yeah.
Yes, there's mitigations that are put in place with variances that will help mitigate whatever the code requirement is trying to do. And that's why we allow variances. Without mitigations, we don't allow variances. But the one thing I want to stress when, a lot of these rides are coming in, and not so much for the coaster, but the other European rides, is when you have a declaration from the manufacturer that says it meets the ASTM standard, and then you have things that are clearly don't meet the standard, which either require a variance or a change, those orders that rewrite should be sent back to the manufacturer. Like, let them know, like, hey, this is a code requirement or in the ASTM standard that you don't meet, right? I know everyone just wants to deal with it and get it over with, and let's either get a variance or change it so it meets. But then sometimes that disconnect is like going back to the manufacturer saying, hey, you don't, we have a 42-inch rule here. I don't know what they have in Europe, but they, for fencing, like as a simple example. I mean, and that's in the standard. And if it doesn't meet it, you make sure you let your manufacturer know, right? Because that's also, even though they're sending you a attestation or a declaration that says it meets, we've found over the years that there's a lot that don't, right? So.
So with the coaster itself, again, we had communication issues with the manufacturer. Either they weren't responding or it was just a language thing in front of the manufacturer. The designer was actually sick. I think he was I think seriously sick as far as like not quite near death, but he was on that stage. And Barry had a similar experience with this with his coaster, with his Cyclone coaster. Yeah, and the manuals had missing pages, and there were different manuals at different times. It was just a bit of a nightmare there. And then again, it's just timing of just unable to with the way that again this was 2023, so it's just timing with everything with people. And then also again, the vacation had to be done prior to the CNE, so we were really pressed for time. We eventually got it done. It was just really pressed for time. So we also looked at possibly going for a different electrical engineer. But if we do that, then we're changing gears. So I prefer to, if I'm dealing with one electrical engineer from the start, I want to stay with that person so things aren't lost. So that's why I decided to stick with instead of trying for somebody different. The European rides, the Cole Max Pluses, for example. Yeah, so Sonny is here, and he and Joel had pulled up the measuring tape, and it looked fine from a distance, but it actually was 2 inches short on the fencing, and it was frustrating. And it actually turns out I'll jump a little ahead in the sense that that Jordy had a swing ride, and I pulled out the tape and found out the exact same thing. It was 2 inches short. So, and that was a ride we got registered. Well, we're still almost near. He's having an inspection any day now for this swing ride, and he's ordering. He has to tell the manufacturer that they're 2 inches short, and they're sending him new fencing in order to make for this swing ride. So again, this isn't just the first time this has happened, but you'd figure that something as basic as this wouldn't be an issue, but it was an issue, and it does happen. But it's frustrating to see something like that. We had to do a slight modification that would pass for go-getter, but it's because of what I say here, because due to the safety envelope. And then the X drive, this was interesting. I guess Danny was here too, because there's a difference of interpretation of the AS10 to F2291 standards regarding the restraint system compared to Europe. And because of this, so discussion have begun with AS2 to address this. And I kind of wrote this last year, but things have progressed since then. And I know that due to some of this frustration with with the manufacturer, that it led to more stronger negotiations between Danny and the manufacturer. So since Danny isn't here, I'm not going to go into it, but it's just that it was good that we were able to kind of at least communicate with everybody as to what's going on, because it was a bit of an issue. I don't know if Sonny or Jill want to add to this or not. It's your call, but I guess not.
Well, I don't
Okay.
want to go into detail people's obviously devices and stuff like that, but in terms of, again, this is the kind of same thing, if they send the disclaimer that it meets the current ASTM standard, and then
Mhm.
we find out later that it really doesn't, right? So
Yeah. So that's as far as I was going to go, unless, like I said, it was since Danny and Bennett were online, but they're off right now. So, but again, just letting you know that it's just, you have to push your manufacturers when it comes to, if they're gonna say they're gonna meet a standard, push to make sure that they do, and make sure. And ideally, you should put that in when you're buying a ride. Put that in your contract. They say that they will meet the standard, or else there will be either penalties, or that they'll have to fix it, or they'll have to pay for the fix, or pay for the adjustments, so to get the ride fixed.
I actually
Um,
want to add that the standard right now technically requires for new rides, the manufacturers does have to give you some sort of certificate to say that the ride meets the AFPM.
say it again.
I believe it's on the manufacturing standard 1193. It does require the manufacturers to provide some sort of certificate for,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
compliance.
Yeah. For
compliance.
compliance. So we put in the variance to deal with the issues solved prior to the CNE, and then then we had an inadvertent start issue that was not covered in the initial application. So we got that. That's for the double decker carousel, because we were just trying to get it back into service. So we didn't know that we had to deal with an inadvertent start issue. Eventually, with Phil's help, we got that up and going. And then, so my experiences with the European rides is just that the response times was either I got no response from Interpark, or they were just somewhat useless. Colmax was spotty, Tivoli was slow at times, and KMG was actually excellent. I got a response out of them pretty good. And I had to deal with vacation time. So this is what I see when I'm dealing with these rides. So, and then again, a list of things that you should look for in when asking the contract. I got these, actually, some of this suggestions came um, from David Wells, an engineer out in Alberta or so. But things to kind of look for. Again, it's just again, stress analysis, detailed risk assessments, detailed drawings, everything that you should have. That's a lot of the stuff is actually already listed in F2291, but some of the stuff is actually repeated actually in the European standards. That's where this is coming from, which is interesting. So when they say that they meet the ASTM standards, it shouldn't be a really big deal to them, because a lot of this is very similar to the European standards. So as I say, ask for a declaration of a compliance letter. Do they meet these particular standards? Sometimes it can be difficult to get this information, and they may charge you extra for them. But what else do I have here? Okay, and what happens in the future? We'll see what happens in the future. Um, when I'm as a submitting engineer, I'm submitting your documentation. So I'm assuming most of you don't really look at the details, but there's a list. There's a page. It's like page 3 on the documentation lists the standards that I say that your documentation will or is following. So you should be aware of what these things are. And even though they're listed, it may not look like a big deal to you, but actually is a big deal. And it also lists the standard and the edition, and the edition is basically the years. And TSSA adopts the standard 6 months after it gets published. And then the 2783, which is a Canadian standard that basically is a list of all the ASTM standards that Canada is following. Okay. Terminology related to music. Oh, it's okay. I'm just explaining what each one of these things are. And 770 is a big document pushing more operators. You all kind of have it, but you should have a document that basically explains how you're operating your ride for your operation. Right? And more you are beginning to understand what that is and put it together. And then 2374, 22 operation manual. So anyway, we just keep going. So when I also there's in the so when I'm submitting the documents going forward, I will there's a I'm asking menu operators to put together there will be a ride analysis because every ride requires a ride analysis, whether you notice it or not. If a manufacturer doesn't supply one, I will make one for you, but I will charge you for it because it's a level of, because it's a risk to me. It's risk to, actually, it's a risk to everybody. The thing is that the manufacturer will tell you all the things that could possibly go wrong and the risks that are involved and the severity of it because they designed the ride. If I'm doing it, then I'm assuming I know enough of the risks in the ride, and I shouldn't have to do that. It should be the manufacturer because it's their design of the ride. So I'm going to try to do so going beyond that, I'm going to show you a bit of what that looks like. Dynamic testing, I'm going to try to do more dynamic testing because there's a possibility they might want to create a baseline for rides in the future as far as what does the ride do now as opposed to what they do in the future. The bigger parks actually do this sort of thing, and there is a possibility that GSA may end up doing that for the carnival stuff for all the rides in the future. Any documentation that I'm putting together will keep in mind the possibility that ride may eventually the paperwork may eventually end up in Alberta, so I'll be doing that. And then also going forward is no matter what ride I get, no matter who I get it from, we're going to review it and make changes right then and there. I've been taking documentation and sending it back. I've been taking, for example, electrical documentation and seeing what I can get out of it, then sending it back to operators' own electricians for changes, which hasn't been always successful, or getting back to manufacturer for changes, which has been awfully slow. And as a result, it takes a long time to get responses back and going back and forth. So what's going to happen is if I get something good or bad, Phil's going to look at it. We're going to fix it right then and there, and then we're going to send it in, and we're going to deal with the costs later on because it's becoming more expensive to go do this back and forth all the time, rather than us just fixing it up front, regardless of who knows what to do. Because I always defaulted to the operator's electrician, and that has failed me multiple times in the past couple of years. So that's one of the big reasons why Phil is on the team. As I run through this, I'm not going to put him under the microscope right now because let's talk about Phil Terrell Technical Services. Hold on. So Phil, want to jump in there?
Yeah, sure, I guess so. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Phil Terrell. I do electrical system design, control systems, panel building, programming, commissioning services, all that good stuff. I've been working with Michael now for a couple of years, just kind of fell into the rides. I think it was, I got introduced to it with Astro Amusements,
And Gus, yeah.
Ardo and Andrew, and just sort of blossomed from there. But so what I'm seeing from all the stuff that Michael's been going over, like I'm a circuits guy, so I look at all the circuits and the drawings. I love to do drawings. So I'm seeing the non-compliance in the areas of e-stops, no fail safe, and because a lot of the rides that come in, they're not coming in with safety PLCs. We're having to add safety controls. We're having to add overspeed protection. And so this is kind of getting repeated over and over again, as well as I'm seeing a lot of very poor drawings coming out of Europe and out of the US as well. So I end up redoing a lot of drawings, which is time consuming and costly. But in the end, the product is good and passes inspection. So yeah, that's about it.
Okay. So I'll tell you, talk about 3 rides this year. And so we've had so issues this year. There's a new engineer running the department. This is good and bad. So the good part is it's that new engineer is Joelle. I'm not just trying to kiss her, just kiss up to her is the fact that she knows rides. She's a ride person, which is great for us overall. The bad news is just for me, it's hard to get a hold of her now that she's running the show. But so it's good for the industry overall. We had unfortunately, we had run through a period of time where we just had we're just down to two engineers, one point electrical engineers, and one had a death in the family, so it just kind of delayed things. But that's just life as things happen. Found out that the elevator industry was taking advantage of a kind of a small loophole in the rush system, which ended up delaying things for amusement devices. So while they're pushing things for amusement devices, it was just kind of complicating things for us as amusement in AD's amusement device department. I think we got things sorted out, but that was part of it. We had that as a bit of a complication. So it would end up, so as I kind of alluded to, it helped force the TSSA make any rushes a priority for rides, which is a good thing. So they really kind of went out of the way to help make things go. So again, we had issues of just performance reports and budget requirements, and again helping customers. So they had a lot of internal conflicts, but again, this is just the corporate life of things. So and then if we have, let's say, if a submission is delayed due to delivery or electrical stuff, so everybody's basically pressured to close numbers, to close stuff in as quickly as possible. That's one of the reasons why I'm trying to avoid delaying things, because it complicates things for everybody. So and so I get automatic notifications from the system to get things in as quickly as possible. Not as quickly as possible, to get things done. So that's another incentive for me to just, as soon as I get something electrical that has to be reviewed or anything gets reviewed, we're just going to fix it right away, because the delays are just costing everybody time and money, and nobody likes it anymore.
Hey, Mike, since we're
mhm.
throwing digs here, maybe I can jump in.
Please.
You know, what also delays it is incomplete documentation, right? Sometimes we try to rush it and we get it in because got to get it in the queue, but incomplete documentation really delays it, right? And then we get the documentation afterwards, then we got to review it again, right? So just, be mindful of that. Try to have everything in place before the submission goes in, right? For sure.
Yeah, and you're right, because there are times then I can only submit, I'll send stuff that's coming in later. I said it's coming in later. It was a little frustrating, but it's just the timing. People try to, I guess, not get it caught in the weeds, but happened a couple times where I could start something, but I can't finish it because the ride hasn't arrived yet, or I get promised a document that's going to come later on. Everybody thinks it's going to come in, then something happens from the manufacturer and gets delayed, or other promises. So again, it's just you're right. Incomplete documentation was a huge factor in some of the stuff that I sent in, because of promises that I was told that was going to happen, and I can't blame the operator directly for this, because it oftentimes more than often came from the manufacturer. It was promising to come in and show up. But yes, incomplete documentation, basically, when it comes right down to it in the end, overall, that's it, really. That overall, it is incomplete documentation because of these other issues.
So just a quick question while we're talking, your slide said there are two electrical engineers. I'm assuming Marion and Pat, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, there's actually more, but I find that I'm working mainly with two. I mean, sometimes Marion helps out. It's really personally, I deal mostly with Pat and Anupam. But there's more other electrical engineers, but I find that during the year I end up working mainly with two of them.
Okay, so my question was, how many other engineers are reviewing the other parts of the documentation? If there's a small handful of electrical engineers, are we talking like 5, 6, 10, 20? Joelle?
In TSSA?
So right now we have I have a team of 11 people. I actually have a new electrical engineer to kind of help with the issue eventually, but he's going to be in training for at least 6 months. And we'll get him up to speed. So each job is reviewed by one mechanical and one electrical engineer.
Right. So you've got 11 mechanicals, what you're saying?
No. That's total. So I have 5 mechanicals.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, something like that. It's like half and half.
Perfect. Thanks.
For the most part.
Yeah. You see a lot of them at these TSSA meetings. You just don't talk to them because they're there. I'm just saying you may not talk to them.
some of the, like, if we have, 5 and 5 mechanical and electrical, like some of the electrical staff primarily don't focus on amusement rides, right? They're doing the elevators and stuff, right?
Mhm.
So that's why you see a smaller amount that do amusement rides. And
Yes. That's why I say like I mostly deal with two of them, but I know that there's a whole bunch of them, and I have dealt with most of them over the years, most of, if not all of them over the years. So common issues, as we said, that companies not following ASTM standards. CE, I see a lot of this even still today, and I actually had a meeting with the Professional Engineers of Ontario in Oshawa last night about electrical stuff. And again, this label kind of came up, and I explained to them that CE is basically it's a label, European label for following a standard, but is not a safety standard. And a lot of people, even engineers last night, some of them thought it was some sort of an electrical safety standard. So no, that is not what that is. So I'm just stressing people, if you see CE, please, actually I say to ignore it, but please don't think that it's an electrical standard because it's not. This label is not accepted as a safety standard within the ESA. And I think Phil's probably seen a few of these things too, right? In just terrible manuals. And what else? Electrical safety requirements. They haven't fully understood F2291 section 11, electrical safety. And so while I'll be down at IAPA, and I'll be talking to one's importer of rides to talk about some of their manuals and their electrical. So, and we're going to offer the idea of basically Phil reviewing the electrical document. As a matter of fact, today, a manufacturer called me today and wants us to review the electrical requirements for the Canadian standard. Like, I've never quite understood what that means, but for electrical standards. So we already have one lined up without me actually having to talk to them. So, which is exciting. So this is the beginning of something.
that reminds me,
Maybe.
I have to send him an email. That's right.
Is it who I think? I don't know. We'll discuss that later. So that was a real surprise. So that was really good. So we're going to push that. We're going to try to get ahead of this game. And because, like I said, a lot of them like to say it's the Canadian standards, and I try to tell people if they follow even if they follow the U.S. standard electrically, and they follow the ASTM standard, then 99% of their problems will not have to deal. Won't be it's not a Canadian issue. It's mostly them not following their own rules. And then what's I would say about variances are needed? Oh, I think I already explained. I was talking about what variances are. I won't get to this because we already talked about it earlier. And sorry. So oftentimes I need variances because of the rides, because of things are missing. And then oftentimes I'll get none, weak, or incomplete ride analyses. A lot of manufacturers do not know what this is, do not understand what it is, and it's frustrating. I have to go explain it to them. And I kind of wanted to show them since there's only really this Carrie that's here, just kind of just my crude form of a ride analysis. And basically what it is, it talks about I have what the likelihood of something will happen, what the consequence of what will happen, such as as he says here, no consequence treatment, first aid treatment, and extensive injury or death. And then the likelihood just shows rare and likely whatever, and it's color coded to the right-hand side with numbers. And then on the next page, I list a whole list of things as to what I think can happen, and then what's who it's going to affect, the likelihood, and these are just math calculations. And I'm trying to get everything. And I start off at the beginning saying this is what I accept, because if I go back to the previous page, back a bit, I'll show us. Oh, go back a bit. Hold on. And hold on. Anyway, let's go back to this thing anyway. So
Wait,
it's
while
basically.
Mike is talking about it, I would like to make a comment on this. Like, I know Mike's been working on ride analysis, especially in the absence of the manufacturer giving one. Ride analysis is a teamwork type thing. So I think it would be good if the owners, operators review this document with Mike to make sure that whatever he's putting makes sense in the context of your operations of the ride as well.
Yes, please. I asked for that because in the last 2 years I've been putting this together, I've only had one owner operator ask me about this, right? I've been trying to get more people to sign this document along with me, but I sat down. It was actually with Jim Mills. He says to me, "This is crazy." I said to him, "Well, this is normal." And so he says to me, "What is this?" So I actually explained it to me, and we were on the phone well, we're going back and forth the document for about a half an hour on this one thing. So I've only actually had one person do this with me, which is fantastic. And I'm trying to get everybody to kind of realize that this is what's happening. This is what we're signing on. This is what I'm signing on to, and explain that this is why I'm charging extra for this. So, and then I try, like I said, I try to have a signature at the end. Now, with the Robertson's amusement wheel, this was pretty straight. Well, it was relatively straightforward. What we wanted to do was basically, it came in pretty early. We had an overspeed issue. And then on the older wheels in the past, we were able to use, because we have two drives on to check each other for overspeed. We were asking if we could do that this year, but we weren't allowed to do that this year, which helped with because we put it in as we're gonna put it in the as what we've done in the past. Just two drives kind of checking each other, but this year we weren't allowed to do that. But the biggest thing that we found out, what was really causing the delay for this ride to get in place, even though we came in very early, is the fact that, and this was frustrating, the ride analysis, which was there, it was weak to begin with, but the system included a safety system for the patrons and I guess the operators, but not for the workers during setup, which was just ridiculous. So we had to add you had to add additional safety system, and nobody quite knew why they didn't include it as part of the system because some of these rides just did not seem to care about the operators, about the operators that set up the ride. They cared about the patrons and maybe the operators, but not the operators, not the crew that set up the rides. The safety system didn't account for them. In fact, we often saw clauses. I think I saw this twice. Clauses that said in the documentation that workers and in the ride analysis, the workers must be vigilant. That is not a mitigation. That is not a way to say they were trying to basically offload their responsibility for for the safety of the ride onto the operators, which is insane. So keep in mind or keep watch for that sort of thing, that they should not be writing that in the documentation. If they design the ride and the ride is supposed to be safe, it's supposed to be safe for the operators, the patrons, and anybody who's setting the ride up. They shouldn't have to offload that responsibility on you because they designed the ride. You don't know how the ride's designed. Jordy's swing ride. Again, we finally kind of finished this up. It was again, right came in, it was short of 42 inches. And then we had the electrical schematics that were completely unreadable, and Phil had to redo it all over again. I made the mistake of sending back to the manufacturer. Manufacturer was slow to respond, came back with basically next to nothing. It was just a terrible response. And then we gave them a list of things that TSSA had commented on. They came back with a change, but there's very little changes in what needed to be done. And so again, we had to deal with it again. No ride analysis. Again, terrible. Again, I had to go. Then we ran out of time for Jordy had an electrician lined up. By the time we got everything done, Jordy's electrician didn't have time to get it done. Phil was busy with his time. We finally got the ride completely done. In fact, Jordy told me a couple of nights ago that everything's all ready to go except for just the fencing. Again, if I get stuff in, we're gonna fix it right away, not deal with this going back and forth because it was just craziness. And then the ballistic, again, we're almost done here. Again, electrical issues, we had to get sorted out. The design is, and I just get frustrated because this manufacturer, everybody knows I don't like this manufacturer, but it's just that it has, this ride needs to me, engineering involves the evolution of rides, things get better and better, but I don't find this ride gets better and better. It's just, and they keep pulling back on some of the features of the ride. And also, I'm going to pull us, and this little aside, because I sent something I sent a note to Tony, actually Tony's wife, and I inadvertently included a line in my email that was misinterpreted, and I had to call her and I had to apologize because, and I was sincere about this because I had to apologize because something that I wrote because I said that I don't trust this crowd, and you have to understand from an engineering point of view, we have to treat rides as if. I have to look at a rise as to where things can go wrong and who can possibly hurt themselves. So basically, no matter what if you tell me you're going to be safe for the ride, I have to look at it at the point of view is that who can possibly kill themselves, because that's part of my job. And so I can't trust anybody. And so if you look carefully on your correspondence when you get your TSSA documentation, if you get your rides approved, there's a list of correspondence that goes back and forth between the submitting engineers and myself and the engineers at TSSA. You can read between the lines of what the conversation is going back and forth, because basically we're trying to cover not just our asses, but people's asses, and thinking that what could possibly go wrong. And that's where the ride analysis comes into place. So when I say that And as I said, they are upset that I wrote that I don't trust this crowd, which is rightfully so. But basically, I have to go about life for anybody as for anybody that may touch the rights is that who can do something that might kill themselves, and what can I do to cover that, and if the manufacturer hasn't done that. Inflatables quite simple. Don't buy inflatables without manuals. People are still doing that. It drives me crazy. And also, you should know what you should have. All that's written within 2374. HTML 2374. The best rides of the year came from, for me, Nevis Fun World at Zemperla Speedway and the Kronos. What I found was main thing is that everything was submitted and completed within 4 weeks. And why was that? Because no electrical modifications were needed. And what else? Because the manuals came with a ride analysis and manual spectacular. It was just shocking. It went in, get done. Phil looked at it. It was fantastic. It went in, it was done. And I want to stress the fact that probably part of the reason, the fact that the Pro was heavily involved in helping making the standards, and because they're a bigger company, they have more money to do that sort of thing. They knew what to do. So again, it was just pretty straightforward and great. And that's it. Anybody else have any, Phil or Sonny or Joe, want to add to additional comments? No? Good. Did I dig any deep holes for myself or no?
No, it was great. That was good.
Okay.
Maybe with us.
It's nice to see that. I mean, we've all, when someone's device is held up by anything,
Somebody's chuckling.
it spreads through the industry when someone's
I
device.
can't hear any voices, so
we definitely know about most of these things. So it's interesting to see what the holdups were and the communication between manufacturers and
well
yourself.
done. Oh, sorry. I've got my sound off. Sorry.
Yeah. So we it's good to see the different devices and whatnot. So I know from what I've heard. So any other questions for Mike or Phil, Joelle, or Sonny?
I
Okay,
guess just a comment if there's no questions. In the spring, maybe around our seminar time, I think we're going to commit to having a meeting with our amusement rides submitters as well, the submitting engineers. Because I know we talk with Mike a lot. Your industry deals with Mike a lot. But we do have other engineers as well, and we want everyone to be in the same page and like have be subject to the similar standards.
Yeah. No, I don't. And I'm not going to. I don't want to name names or anything like that. But I know. I mean, I know 2 or 3 submitting engineers for amusement devices. Is there like a ton of them, or is there just a couple as the ones that we typically know? Without mentioning, I don't want to drop names or anything, but
we can drop the names because it's very few.
yeah, no, that's what I'm
It's
assuming.
literally everyone
Definitely
that you
just
know.
4, right? Yeah.
There's 4. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
We can
There's
count
4. Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah.
I just wasn't. I mean,
Yes.
I know most people use Michael for the most part, and Sandy, of course, and then you know what I mean. I know there's another guy that I've seen doing some stuff. I guess there's people that do more inflatables than they do rides, but I just wasn't sure if there was other people coming across. Carrie Robertson, go ahead.
Okay, this is a question for Joelle. But what is the current wait time on submissions for engineering?
So currently our turnaround time is an average of 40 days. And again, that's if everything's good, that's an average. And what we've told industry is for amusements, we typically prioritize your submissions during the months of March to September even. And then the ski season, the ski people get a little bit of priority around this time of the year, except for the Halloween type installations. And then we also deal with those.
Okay, thank you.
People ask me when to submit. I try to avoid submitting this time of year up until like mid-January because for a couple of reasons. One is because I know TSSA is busy with ski stuff. I don't want to, get them have our stuff mixed up with theirs. And the other thing is, I have to oftentimes, I will submit a document. I'll submit applications, but my inspection won't happen yet, right? So then it's incomplete, right? So that helps to delay things. But I can't see anything. Like I've done this a couple of times, and I pretty much refuse to do this because Phil and I have been out to see a ride in January. It was like -20 outside. They're like, what's the point of this? Because it's just crazy. The ride is not operating. It's for everybody's freezing. Everybody's just miserable. So we can start the paperwork. Everything will sit there as far as I can. It's keeping the queue, but I can't finish it until I do my inspection.
And
I'm
it
trying to.
also helps us if you tell us your plans on when you want to run the ride in advance,
Mhm.
then we could kind of help you with the timeline and work with you.
Yes, that
I
helps
mean,
a
as
lot.
long as it's not 48 hours, we could usually deal with that.
Yes, so that's a really big deal too. So we're it makes the window a little smaller, but I do know, like I said, if I start setting it right now and I'm not going to see it till March, then they're just going to get pissed off because this is unofficial because I can say the unofficial stuff. They're just going to be pissed off because this thing's just going to sit there for a while and then so it's just frustrating. So yeah, the process has gone a little faster, and in fact, I've talked to other staff at the TSSA about dealing with the portal, and I'm making some modifications for myself this year to make things a whole lot easier because I've had people send in the stuff and stuff has gotten lost. But now I've discussed it with them as to how we're going to make sure stuff doesn't get lost and how to make things a lot more smoother. And I guess with this upcoming meeting, we're learning about a bit more about that. But yeah.
Good.
But if everything's like I said, with like the Zamperla had everything bang, 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 in and out in 4 weeks. It was remarkable. It was fantastic.
Did you just say Zamperla?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't get parts in under a year. So the fact that they got something
Especially
back
how
in
they
4
moved
weeks.
everything to Italy. Yeah.
Yeah. They had their, NEPs had their technical issues or so, but then they were dealing with, Zamperla and they're talking to through Italy and back and forth. But the paperwork was just, I sent it off to Phil, said, "What's wrong with this?" No, Phil's comment was nothing, right?
That's because it was a brand new ride. Exactly. That's
Yes.
yeah. Yeah.
But also remember, as I stressed, the fact that these ASTM rules aren't written by the TSSA. They're written by the Zamperlas of the world, right? So you can point the TSSA as much as you want, but they didn't write the rules. They're following the standard that the industry agreed to, and part of the people that helped make those rules for the industry were the Zamperlas of the world.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything further? Questions? No questions? Okay. All right. Thank you, Michael, for the presentation.
Okay.
Appreciate that. Lots of good insight on the engineering side of what's going on. And also, obviously, the changes at TSSA, speeding up the processes. Joel's new position, that's great. And we'll wait to hear about the seminar dates. I'm hoping for Vaughn because we fly in, so traveling to Oshawa from the airport's not fun, but Vaughn,
No,
that would be not so bad.
but I don't mind personally.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
I know,
That's
on your
okay.
end, exactly. Yeah, so it works out for you, not for us. It's all good. All right. Well, thank you very much for that. Next, we're going to just do a quick. So Andrew Jadaro is going to be speaking at Cafe coming up on Thursday, November 14th. It's the 100th anniversary convention, and Andrew will be representing the CAAO on a roundtable discussion. And he is with Reg from Western Fair, Daryl Brown from the X, and Aaron Roberts from Zeem.com. I'm not sure what that is. And they've been basically assigned a couple of questions, and they're dealing with building bridges, navigating government relations for fairs and exhibitions. And we all know Andrew is a spearhead for that. He's going to do really well, and he's going to represent the association. So that's quite exciting. So if you're attending Cafe, please sign up for that meeting. It's at 4 p.m. on Thursday, November 14th. So please attend that one and show your support for Andrew. Speaking of Cafe, Linda did send me an email. Just going to make sure I don't misquote her. She couldn't make it, obviously, with the convention 2 weeks away. She's a one-trick pony, as she said. Or the army of one. So she has no advocacy updates at this time. But she is hoping to provide, or other than the email she provided about 2 weeks ago, and if she does get anything new, she will send it to me, and of course I will send it out to everybody else, and that's regarding the temporary foreign workers. Now Jordy's on the call. Colin is not on the call, but I'm assuming Colin, that's been rolling forward. I haven't seen anything lately in the news, update wise, other than the link that was sent out. I think Patrick had shared it with us. And that is the only update on the temporary foreign workers that I have. Does anybody else have anything to add into that? And that was with the minimum wage going up to say If it's $8 minimum wage, then you got to pay a certain percentage more to your foreign worker in that area, and that's kind of where we're at right now. So if it's a $10 minimum wage, you got to pay 25 or something like that. That's kind of what they're aiming for, and that is also based on the unemployment rate in the area. That's where we're kind of at. No new updates from what I've been sent, unless anybody has something new to add.
I mean, I'm going to speak on behalf of the CAO at the cafe meeting, but I mean, as much information as I have from everyone who's applying right now for foreign workers, and the last time we spoke, I think it was Tara and was it Danny? I think had already applied through WorkVantage, and it said that there was the issue was when they were inputting their sort of route list that certain areas in which they were operating, they weren't allowed to use their foreign workers in those areas. That's the kind of thing I want to be able to bring up. I mean, that's the whole goal with going to this talk, is to bring it up in front of cafe members, especially the CEO of the CNE and hopefully like the CEO of Calgary Stampede and people like that who can have a lot bigger advocacy opportunities than we do, right? So the more information I'm armed with, the better. So, I mean, anyone who's going through it right now, I mean, either send me an email or share on here, or just call me directly and let me know, just so that I know what to bring up with these folks.
Yeah, so if there are any questions that you want Andrew to bring up or any details, you can send them through the email, mail@thecaao.ca, and I'll make sure that Andrew gets them, or you can call me or send me a text or whatever. We'll make sure that Andrew gets those. But that's definitely, you're on the hook for your temporary foreign workers all season, and now they're saying there's certain events you can't use them at. So that's going to make bigger issues if you show up at the CNE and you can't use your multiple numbers of people, and you have to hire all local for there. It's a big retraining mission. It's a big undertaking that obviously is, it's going to open a giant can of worms if we can't use them.
So I think part of that is, though, they're saying that in those areas, from what I got from it, we have to pay more again. It's not that we can't use them.
Right. Sorry. And that's the flip side to that was that they're saying you could pay more if that goes through that direction. Then
Right.
yes, there's the option of they're throwing that around that, instead of paying the minimum wage of $10 an hour, they want you to pay $25 an hour. So that was the other give or take one. So yeah. So I mean, we're still waiting to see what the rulings will be. I know something said it was starting November 1st, I think is the last thing we heard, which is obviously right around the corner. Jordy, do you have any updates? Have you spoke to Colin at all, or can you speak to him and get us an update, and I'll put that out in an email?
I have, and the emails are going out. And on my personal note, I've heard back from several of my fairs and events that they have sent letters to MPs, and I urge everybody to, if you haven't already sent a letter, one of those letters to your MP or had events, do that on your behalf. Please get with it. So it's important that we ring the bell and let them know we're someone to talk to in this as they redo or revamp this. I mean, we got to make sure they know about our industry and the challenges we face.
Absolutely.
So Bennett, where are you guys at from a name perspective? Because obviously you guys have a ton of foreign workers. Bennett?
Let me ask to unmute here. Hang on. Unmute. Bennett, are you there? Bennett? Hello. We have terrible service here. I'm on Starlink and I can't even turn my video on or it'll shut down the Zoom. So the only way I could host it was with audio only, because it's even for some reason with Starlink, it's a terrible zone here.
Okay, no worries.
You there? No, I don't know if he can unmute or not. Okay. Any other stuff to add into TFW or Andrew's speaking? Anything to
So
add?
they limit the number of employees you can have? Like, I know they cut it down to a 10%, wasn't it now?
Yeah, I don't think they've gotten that far as I know. But whether or not we're in that loophole of truly temporary because they aren't impeding on the housing market, for a lot of us, there isn't really the opportunity for them to work in the winter. So they're saying that there's still going to be some exemptions there, but the unemployment rate per area that we go to is going to affect us for sure.
Interesting.
Okay. Tara,
Hi.
you wanted to add something?
Nothing's changed on this end since the last time we met for us. Our application is in and we have an officer reviewing it right now. I just had some correspondence come back to us in relation to the postal codes. They are looking at it with a finite pen. We've had to make some revisions. Like I said last time, the unemployment rate was higher in some regions, and so we had to make a few swaps as far as our location to accommodate that. What's that? Edmonton being one of them, of course, like we were talking, it's those larger metro areas, right, that are going to have the higher unemployment rate. So we have a few of those in our route, and we've had to kind of play with it a little bit. I'm hoping that as we go down the line, like you were saying, Carrie, I think, just that they'll see that it's discriminatory. I think we should be exempt. We're not pulling from the local housing market for them to expect us to pull 50 to 80 people week to week to train and get ready for an event is completely unrealistic. And definitely preaching to the choir right now, I know that, but it's like no joke. Not only is it hard to source those people locally, but it's a huge safety risk to think that we can hire that many people that quickly and dot every I and cross every T. And we all know how important our safety programs are. Without them, we just don't operate. So it's like one day at a time right now. I'm grateful that our application is being reviewed. That's good. I'm glad it wasn't rejected. Whether they look at our route list and they say exactly that, Carrie, you can use your foreign workers here, but you can't use them here and here, or you have to pay them X more. That will be something that we have to comply with or deal with. I mean, if people are obsolete, like we just don't have the people lining up. It's scary, but like I said, I'm just really hopeful with having our application in being reviewed, that we'll at least have some kind of answers or know where we lie. Today, I had to resubmit the route list with the postal codes again because the address. So when I submitted their route list the first time, they wanted the location, the date, and the postal code for that city. Now they've come back and they want not only the city postal code, but they want the exact venue postal code. So they're taking a really close look at this. I imagine in the next couple of days, I'll hear back from the officer at Service Canada and I can provide more information. But at this point, that's really where we are, one day at a time. Stressful, very stressful. It's a lot of work, a lot of emotional energy, real estate, mental real estate, to not know where we're going to end up. It's
Yes,
a lot.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, feel free to send me messages as you get updates. And I mean, if
I will.
If I can peg something together and just send out, mass emails to our guys to let them know that, you're making progress or you're at a roadblock or stuff like that. I think that's important because I think soon everybody's going to be going through this kind of the same thing. So
100%. What day are you speaking, Andrew, at Cafe?
he's on the 14th.
Thursday?
Yeah, the 14th. I'm not sure what time, but
4:00.
I have a call tomorrow, then on Friday with the people on the panel to go over everything. But are you coming to Cafe?
Yeah, we're looking at it. We're just trying to juggle kids' school and hockey and all that stuff, the shop, everything, but it is definitely top priority. It starts on the 13th, yeah? 13 to 15?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I think I'm probably just going the one day when I'm speaking, but because I think one day is like a tour of Toronto. They
Mm-hmm.
take you go to like tourism places, I guess. I live here, so I'm good with that one. But
Yeah. I mean, the primary objective of our trip out to Cafe is, of course, to meet with our fair boards and definitely advocate for this foreign worker issue that we're all facing. So if that's happening on the 14th, um, I'll keep that in mind.
yeah, the more people that can come to that talk for sure, then because like, it's a question and answer period too, so you could bring up the issue directly. Because the more of us that sort of pound that drum, obviously the better.
Carrie, do you have a
Okay.
question?
Yeah, so I'm just thinking that while we have Sonny and Joelle here, maybe speaking to what Tara's talking about with the safety concern, maybe we could get them to write us some type of a letter stating that we do the TSSA passports with these guys. And so the training, like she said, that goes into this is sort of extensive when they first come. And some of these guys have been here for years. So I think that maybe getting that behind us may be helpful as well. What do you think, Sonny?
I'm in total support of that comment in terms of the realistic approach to training new people at a site at every site is unrealistic, right? And it is concerning because those things don't just get done on one site, right? It's a multiple hours and everything else for operators, for mechanics, for all of that, right? So I mean, definitely on board with that in terms of the requirements in 770 to train, and every jurisdiction is different. Every regulation has their requirements for training and competable people. So that is yeah, you have our side for that. In terms of a letter or advocacy, I mean, we can definitely look into that, right? So.
I think that would be a huge thing, actually coming from a regulator. I mean, that's one province, and if one province jumps on board, I mean, we might be able to get a DURSA or TSASC or something like that to do the same right across. I mean, that could be a huge thing, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let me
I
see if
don't
we.
mind making the call tomorrow for our TSBC guys. I know they would be great advocates for us out west.
mhm.
We've had multiple conversations with them year after year about just the vitality of our industry, relying on these foreign workers that we just simply can't do it without them. So
Yeah.
maybe I'll add that to my call list tomorrow. I'll look at ADARSA and I'll look at TSBC tomorrow.
If you guys would like, if you could draft the letter and we could even discuss it in our chiefs meeting where all the regulators are going to be present, like, or a representative of the regulators.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's a
That'd be
Chiefs
great.
meeting before the 14th. Um,
Yeah, that'd be good.
I don't
That would
think there
be fantastic.
is.
Get that in
Uh,
front of all the
there's
reg.
a Chiefs meeting on the 15th. But I mean, definitely, yeah, I think to Joel's point, drafting something that you would like and then sending it to TBS, Technical Safety BC and ADARSA and ourselves and TSASC and Saskatchewan and you know what I mean? I think that's important, and I mean we can send it to the Chiefs group and see what everyone thinks in terms of like providing support for that advocacy, right? For sure.
That'd be great.
That'd be great.
Thank
Great. Okay.
Good stuff.
Okay.
Okay, so we have the next ADAC meeting. TSSA ADAC is on November 11th. I'm gonna speak to Cindy tomorrow. I'm gonna talk to her about the incident reporting thing. I've already received 6 messages behind the scenes here regarding that, so that's gonna be a can of worms to open. So I will take care of that. November 14th, well, 13th to 15th is Cafe, and that's at the Sheraton Parkway Hotel in Richmond Hill. Andrew Dodaro speaking on the 14th at 4 p.m. After that, you've got IAPA in Orlando, Florida. That is the 18th to the 22nd. I think the trade show is the 20th to 22nd or 19th. It's the day after, I think, usually. Most people I know are headed to IAPA as well. So if you're down there, make sure we all get together at some point.
And then the week after that is my son's wedding. So
yeah,
Congratulations.
is it in Florida?
Mexico.
Oh, Mexico. Okay. All right. I'll put that on the
Even better.
official agenda.
Put that on the calendar.
Yeah, put that on the calendar, the official calendar. And then, of course, the IISF is February 11th to 14th, and that's in Gibsonton, Florida for the Gibsonton Trade Show, kind of the preseason kickoff, where all the manufacturers have their stuff on display for Michael to rip apart and dissect. I don't know if, Sonny, have you ever gone to that before?
No, what's the date of that?
So that's February 11th to 14th. That's in Gibsonton, and that's where you'll actually see the overseas manufacturers displaying their stuff. Kind of, I mean, IAPA, yeah, sure, but the IASF show is where actually the carnival people are buying, not the amusement parks. So you won't see amusement park people at Gibsonton, where you'll see kind of a mix at IAPA. These will actually be rides that mobile people are using. So that might be actually interesting to dip in for a day or so into Tampa Bay. Obviously, it's Tampa, so. So that's kind of the calendar. I will I'll tentatively schedule a meeting for 2 weeks from today. Tentatively scheduled if we have any updates on TFWs and whatnot. And then of course all the people who couldn't make it tonight, once they watch the video, if there's enough to stir up, then we will schedule for 2 weeks. And if not, it'll be 4 weeks from now to pick up where we left off. And then we do have, hang on one second, I'm just gonna check the date here. Make sure I have the right date. So the CAAO AGM is Wednesday, November 27th, which is all members. Obviously, we have a mix of concessionaires, ride operators, games. We have food operators and stuff like that. So depending on the meeting and the topics, we get different people in and out. Obviously, temporary foreign workers is of no interest to the smaller food operators in our thing, but for the AGM, everybody will be present for that. And then, of course, the final thing on the agenda is to get the confirmed dates from Sonny regarding the TSSA NARSO seminar for Ontario. Any other new business to take care of before we end the call? Nope, no hands. All right, well, thank you, everybody. Sonny, Joelle, thank you. Mike and Phil, thank you very much. And we'll see you all soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay.